Welcome back to Narratives in Black, in part 2 of our conversation with the trailblazing Taneshia Nash Laird. We'll dive deeper into her groundbreaking work and leadership. This time, we'll explore her visions for the greater Roxbury Arts and Cultural Center and the programs she's championing to promote social justice through the arts. Taneshia shares stories of resilience, her entrepreneurial insights, and her approach to balancing economic development with cultural preservation. If you're ready to be inspired by the strategies, vision, and impact of one of the nation's most dynamic leaders in the arts and advocacy, don't miss the second part of our conversation with Miss Taneshia Nash Laird. We all had to take a deep breath on set for that because we all know what that feels like. I'm glad you named that word transplant though, because it definitely triggered me, because somebody else earlier this week had said the same word to me earlier and they was like, but Amanda Shea is a transplant. And I was like, why does that bother me? And I think part of the reason, especially in Boston, why it bothers me is because, and this is gonna be a question that goes back to you, is I feel like we're just here. How do you feel being a transplant not from this city? It's like a twofold. Why do you think that we're labeled as a transplant because we're not from here?
I don't say it a bad word, but let me just ask you, so how long you been here?
18 years.
Yeah.
And if we were talking about common law marriage, like by the
yeah, I'm like
11 years, you might as well
years,
say
you might as well be from here.
That part, however,
that's like I'm talking about you when I'm saying see the people that are here, because you've been here longer than my daughter been alive.
Listen, I've been here for half of my life at this point. Don't do the math on me. But yes, I've been here for half of my life at this point. But I think for me, part of it is people will be like, well, you're not from Boston. No, but I wear Boston on my back. However,
yes.
I also feel that sometimes transplants get a bad name or it's used bad because some people from their own city feel like transplants come in and do all of this work. So for me, I guess the question is for you, do you feel as a transplant, as somebody in Boston, how do you feel like you're able to navigate? Speak about that maybe for somebody who's in the city, from the city, and doesn't feel seen or heard. And you're somebody who just came here and you're able to navigate this plane so what it seems like
so there's
effortlessly.
There seems right. So, but some of these things are choices, because I do interrogate these things. So I say, hey, how come I don't see y'all at these places? You know, we're allowed to go to these places.
Absolutely,
right?
And there's Black and brown people all over Boston. Don't let the news or anything play you.
All over. Some of it is about not feeling welcome. So I think the thing about what's different for me, your transplant experience is probably different than mine, but it's also something I've observed in my own kids. They walk with some agency, right? That I think, listen, I did not live through. If I lived here, I would have actually lived through the busing.
Yes, absolutely.
So that trauma, which even someone who was not alive during that time period, that trauma, trauma gets transmitted, right? Genetically.
Absolutely.
So I think there's still a lot of trauma, and that's, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not an MD, but I'm just telling you what I think. I think there's a lot of trauma, and I think that's something that, the only thing that I would tell someone who is from here is that show up. They say like 80% of success is just show up. Even if you don't think that you're going to be welcome, show up, show out, and make them see you, right? Just your presence. Don't do anything, you don't have to do anything crazy.
You
got to be extra. Just being there. Because I know, first meeting I had here, was with my board chair at the time, and he said, did you notice there are no other Black people here? This is the place that you chose? And I said, yeah, I wonder why, except for the people that work it, because there's no feeling of, ironically, that same hotel that NAACP used as their convention host hotel. So there were a lot of Black people there in that.
Absolutely.
But I do find Boston is still very siloed. Even though I'm telling people to show up in spaces that they feel that they're not necessarily welcome, that also is why I'm committed to making sure that there is a space that they clearly know that they're welcome and that they're centered.
Absolutely. You're doing an amazing job with that, by the way. Let's just talk about GRACC for a second. Because your role is changing there a little
Yes.
bit, right?
Yes.
So you are no longer going to be the president and the CEO of
I will
GRACC.
always be the inaugural president.
I know that's right. You gotta say inaugural.
Which, let's listen. I have to thank Kai Grant, our board member and co-founder, for
Love
saying
me
that.
some
Kai said, "You
Kai.
will always be the inaugural." Thank you, Kai. Thank you. But no, I'm senior advisor, which really just means I'm pursuing other things. I mentioned earlier that I'm the associate professor at Berklee College of Music, which is literally a dream for a person who wanted to do that to now actually be able to educate future superstars, because I keep telling them I will be bragging that I was your professor.
Absolutely.
Because you're all going to be superstars if that's your desire. Not everybody wants to be one. But I'm also taking over an organization called Project Reap, which for more than 25 years has been providing an entree for people of color to enter into commercial real estate. For me, I'm a graduate actually of their academy several years ago. But for me, it's also about social justice and restorative justice and addressing the wealth gap, commercial real estate, which most people won't think about the work that I have done as commercial real estate, but it is when you're doing a facility that is not a home. And even multifamily is considered commercial real estate. But I'm super excited about being able to do that. I'm not moving out of Boston. I'm not giving up and no longer supporting GRACC. GRACC is in my blood. And I'm super proud.
Oh, we ain't letting you go. So if you thought you was gonna leave, you're not, because we
Yes.
gonna hold you here.
Yes.
Period. With that being said, your work has a national impact. Do you know that?
I'm learning that. What's interesting is during the pandemic is when I learned that, believe it or not. And so I'm excited about the things that I've been able to do, whether it's helping people of color in classical music, because I ran Newark Symphony Hall, but we no longer had a symphony, but people saw a Black woman in Symphony Hall and they started reaching out to me, people of color that were in classical music, but also just supporting visual artists, performing artists. For 4 years, I was the head of Rush Philanthropic Arts Foundation, which was founded by Danny Russell and Joey Simmons, who is in the Hall of Fame, Reverend. And so those sort of things, being able to be part of those things it's interesting because I just do them and don't really realize that people are paying attention to them. So when I moved here, there were a lot of people that knew that I was the president of the board of Rush, but I wasn't thinking about it.
It's interesting. I think those are the best stories, though, is when you're so focused on the work that you're not realizing sometimes the impact that you are leaving behind. I mean, you have mentees, you have been instrumental in creating conglomerates. That's a real thing.
But again, the mentees, you know what I love also is the grant paneling. I've been a grant panelist for the National Endowment for the Arts. I've been a grants panelist for Pew. I've been a grants panelist for the New Jersey Theater Alliance.
For the Boston Foundation.
And now I can add the Boston Foundation. There might be some people that we know that have received a grant from the Boston Foundation. But no, being able to be part of that and knowing that that's something that could potentially change lives and help give out millions of dollars, to be in the position to be asked to be in those rooms is pretty, I can't even explain it.
You're assisting the ecosystem. As artists, you already know. It's not just the sustainability of the grants with their home and their kids and balancing their day-to-day, but you're also feeding the ecosystem of all other artists that they are going to be collaborating with. It's a big deal.
But it's just, I'm thinking about, because I just ordered her Time magazine cover. I'm thinking about my other mentee, Lavette Ballard. She's a visual artist. And I remember showing her art to someone at a party, and then he became her biggest patron, buying mid-5 figures worth of her art. And then she went on to do not one, but 2 Time magazine covers. And as a thank you from the early days, she gave me a nice art piece. And I'm like, I'm never selling this. This is going to be passed down for generations.
Absolutely.
It's a dream.
It is divine. Can you discuss some of the broader initiatives you've been involved with across the country? So we've talked about Boston, we've talked nationally with New York in a sense. What are some other things that you have done? outside of here?
Oh my gosh. I can't, there's so much. I recently had to put together a CV for a fellowship that I'm applying for.
Let's go.
Okay, so I want to talk about that for
Can
a
we
second.
talk about that and
okay,
why you decided to do a fellowship now?
So I know, right, at my advanced age.
No. You gonna say age. I'm gonna say
that.
well, all the things that you are balancing in your buckets.
Well, no. So this is really, I've had this thought, this concept of what I call the culture core blueprint. So if anybody goes to my LinkedIn, they'll see I've been a head of economic development for a municipality. I mentioned that earlier, working with a pro athlete in his hometown, and then I ended up doing the economic development for the job. I had this idea that culture is something that can really build community, all aspects of community.
Absolutely.
Real estate development, small business support, especially I'm passionate about Black-owned businesses, but also just quality of life. And so I have this idea that this framework, I want to create some tools that will be free for community organizations, but also government entities, if they express interest, that they can actually utilize this blueprint, the strategic framework to build community. Because I'll tell you, every place I've worked, although I had some individual success in what I was running, I was still frustrated about all the stuff that I saw around. Like,
If that happens.
Right. And so, I mean, even when I was economic development in Trenton, New Jersey, my little development that was near the train station happened, but then everything else around didn't. And I'm like, if only they had followed the blueprint that I didn't know I was creating, but this blueprint of always incorporating culture. And culture is not just the art, it's the people, it's all our traditions, all of that, whatever that culture is for that
It's
community.
our values, yeah.
It's all the values and all that. And so that's what I'm involved in. And I have done it, I didn't call it that, but I've done it in places, Cook County, in Illinois. Oh my God, you're forcing me to think of and make a tick down. But those are all the different places that I have worked. And I'm pretty excited about being able to have an impact, sit on national organization boards like the National Independent Venue Foundation. I think what you were referring to is I was a founding member of the National Independent Venue Association.
Yes, I was.
And we got over $16 billion in relief for the live entertainment industry during the pandemic. My main thing was making sure that Black folks knew about this and could access those resources. And so I was pretty proud. I was going into people's DMs. Do you know that you can apply for the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant? It's called Shuttered Venues, but if you were a promoter, you are eligible. So those are the kinds of things.
Because you talked about DEI work, and I've definitely seen a question on here that relates to DEI work. When you talk about the infrastructure and you're like, I was happy with what I was doing here, but I'm watching everything around me. Can you expound on some of your DEI initiatives, especially working with the bigger conglomerates, and what was the pivotal point that said, I need to do something around the whole entire infrastructure and not just in this one space?
So I didn't realize that I was doing DEI. So let me just start there, right? So I remember going to a meeting and talking about the organization that I still won't name, I almost did, and how...
we can cut.
Yes, and how it was still a very white institution, even though it was situated in a historically Black community. In fact, they even named their art center after, this is a clue, Paul Robeson, because he was born right there. And I later found out that was a negotiation with the community because the building at one point was built during the WPA. It was the colored Y.
Wow.
It's deep. This is some deep stuff. Some deep stuff. So I looked at the mission of the organization and we just started living our mission. And all of a sudden it was more diverse. And I remember a foundation program officer said, oh, I love how you quit. And I said, oh, is that what I did? We're just living our values.
Yes.
You know,
with integrity too.
We're just doing our mission.
Absolutely.
Right? And so during the pandemic, I was so frustrated with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd that I wrote this op-ed that I put up on my LinkedIn, how I rapidly implemented DEI. And I just laid out, this is what the things we did. I later found out that that thing was actually being used at trainings, at organizations across the country, including at Princeton University, right? And so I was like, oh, okay.
See?
You know, so, but it has a name, you know, and I think diversity, equity, inclusion, I guess there's a feeling that there needs to be a name, but I really felt like it's, if you're living your mission, if you're living your values, you're going to be inclusive. Unless you are intentionally structured to exclude.
Absolutely.
If you do those just basic things, you are going to be diverse, you're going to be equitable, and you're going to be inclusive. And this wasn't just race, this was also gender, this was also ability, all the things that we created. And it was just, anyway.
Tanesha,
Yeah.
I hope y'all are really, really listening to what this woman is saying right here in this chair, because this is just like this much of what you have done. I am just inspired, and even you just being like, you making me go back in the crates of my mind to think about years and things. That's how you know somebody is really in their divine purpose, is when they're just going. Do you ever celebrate yourself and sit back and congratulate yourself for the work?
So I started therapy during the pandemic.
2020.
Yeah, and I hope other people did too. I hope you were doing it before.
That was the time though, if you weren't doing it,
right,
to do that.
I was gonna say, I hope you were doing it before. So at the job I was at, Newark Symphony Hall, our insurer was doing it no copay. And I remember saying to the staff, and I even brought in a therapist during that, for the staff at that time. I was like, I'll leave because I know I'm the boss, but you know, we should have something here. And that was the first thing that she said, my therapist one-on-one. She's like, you know, you don't like just stop and celebrate. Like, and so I'm working on that. That's still an area of development for myself. But I will say, and now I'm gonna cry, my mom never made more than $13,000 a year. She never made more than $13,000 a year. She only died 13 years ago. So, excuse me. Let me go back 18 years ago. I'm losing years because I'm losing years. It'll be 18 in February. But still, that's no money. And I was just thinking about the fact that, you know, I can put food on my table, I have a roof over the head, but I'm also able to do things for other people that I enjoy. I do need to figure out a way of celebrating myself, but I will tell you, I get fulfillment from celebrating others. So I, you know, threw a party for a friend here because I thought he had a major milestone. I knew him before, I never knew I would move here. And I was like, oh, I'm doing this thing. And I even had like a little award made up for him and a picture in there from when we first met. And he says, nobody does this. And I said, I do it, you know, but I do need to work on celebrating myself because my mom never celebrated herself. My mom was, and that's why I said you're always watching, because I know that a lot of what I'm doing and not celebrating myself is really duplicating what my mom did, right? So that's why I also got to work on all of that so that my girls can learn. You can be in service, but you still also should celebrate yourself. So now that's why you're going to make me cry, because you're going to remind me of what that doctor said. He was a physician who was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company who said, they're always watching you. So I need to. And my kids, for 2 years in a row, in a card said, hey, can you do something for yourself? So that's how I know. But we don't have to worry about the one that gave me an invoice, though.
Okay.
She does her skincare routine.
Right.
She's good.
But I'm glad that you named skincare routine, because I was literally having this conversation the other day, and I'm thank you for being a reflection for me, because when I look at you, I'm admired, I'm enamored by your resiliency. But at the same time, it's also a reflection because I'm like, you're go, go, go. Are you stopping to celebrate your wins? But also, I do want to stress to the audience out there, getting your nails done, your hair done, your skincare routine is part of your hygiene.
That's right.
Can we stop for a moment saying that pedicures, manicures, and the massages are the ways that we celebrate? Now, it can be a part of that. However, that's maintenance.
Right.
I want us to move away from that. Celebration is whatever that looks like for you, whether it be a celebration of a break, whether it be a celebration in vacation, whether it be a celebration of a beautiful piece of art. Again, we can celebrate ourselves with decorative things, but also still support the artists and still giving those people that energy that we're doing already in the work. So I that's one of my takeaways for you to do, because I'm gonna be holding you accountable.
Please
and texting you and saying, ma'am, have you celebrated yourself? I don't want to hear that you bought a bottle of wine and you in the bathtub. I want to hear you really celebrate yourself in ways that you've never been able to before.
I'm starting. The Toxic Job, we did a great project that included photographing Black women. I now have 2 of those photographs up in my house to remind me of the great things that I've been able to do, even in the midst of crazy. But I'm gonna tell you, this coming January will be 5 years since I rang the bell from breast cancer treatment. So
Girl.
I definitely know that I need to celebrate and I also need to maintain, right? So yes.
I did not know that about you at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I work through all the treatment, which is stupid, right?
No, we're Black women. If you are not taught to care for yourself in that way and stop, how will you know? And you just named that the matriarch of your family did not stop.
She did not stop. That's why she died in her 60s. So I need to make sure that that's not me, in her early 60s. So that's why I got to make sure that's not me.
And your father's 91.
My dad, listen, my dad is 91, and I think it's something to that tending the land. Because he, like I said, even when he moved up to New York, he was still growing stuff. So that was the way that he celebrated and maintained. And
so watching things grow and flourish.
But I just became a plant mom, so I'm working.
Okay, now we talking my language, because I got some babies for you. Nothing, because Amir just asked me. He said, "I need you to come to the plant store and get me some plants." I said, "Yes."
But it's knowing that my dad, so he's proud of his okra and he's proud of his greens and he's proud of sugar cane. I'm like, I'm gonna be proud of my elephant ears, you know.
That's a good plant. Do you know? Fun fact. Do you know that they used to use elephant ear plants when they were away at war, when people would get bruises, cuts, any of those things? Elephant ears was used as their Band-Aids.
Wow. Yeah, but I think there is something to growing stuff. So if you've been doing that, you're gonna live forever.
I hope so, because I got 300 plants in my house, and my mama will kill me if I kill any of them. She just gave me 30 more, talking about if I come back here and they dying, she gonna beat my behind. And I ain't get a threat of a whooping since I was like 12 years old, so you know I'm scared. With that being said, how do you envision the future of GRACC and your role in its continued growth and its success, especially now shifting gears?
Listen, this is another situation where, just like Miss was 21 million. GRACC is 35 and growing. Just because we're trying to be all the things that we want for the community. I see openings. I see you on the stage. I see anybody that wants to be featured on the stage and in the galleries. Absolutely. We had that Juneteenth Jubilee that
we sure did.
And the purpose of that was to show this is the future of it. But mostly I just envision there are other projects besides us, right, happening in Nubian Square.
Absolutely. But can we pause on that Juneteenth Jubilee, because that was absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
You did that. Everybody in the room, you could feel the energy.
Yeah.
And like I said with my dear friend Kat, y'all have this je ne sais quoi about being able to bring people together in a space that need to be in the space. And you did it at Grace by Nia, which is also Chef's Kiss.
Yes, and Kat was one of the honorees.
Absolutely.
And so I know, she has her own time, had her own time on the show, but when she told me, that how special that was for her, I mean, I just, to me, it was like, well, of course. And I said, by the way, I'm not honoring you for what you do at the Boston Foundation. I made that very clear. Nothing wrong with the Boston Foundation, but I wanted to make it very clear that it's what she's done as BAMS Fest.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important for people to be recognized for the things that they do that sometimes we take for granted. But anyway, I see walking down Washington in Nubian Square, taking in jazz urbane when I want to just chill out over there, right?
I cannot wait.
I can't wait for all the things.
I cannot wait. I live right in that neighborhood too, so I'm definitely
Now listen,
biased.
I want people to feel like they're home. I want them to feel that they're home at GRACC in particular.
It's giving Boston Renaissance era.
I know.
Harlem had their time, but it's giving Boston Renaissance.
There are a lot of Boston people that we should be remembering as well, but also thinking about the future and laying the groundwork for the future and the legacy that you're leaving here as well. I feel like I'm just a cipher, right? I just want to be able to be that vehicle for people who continue to make art. I'm a producer. I used to dance. I used to sing. I haven't done any of that in 35 years.
Well, maybe this fellowship may make you tap back into all that.
I know, right? But I just hope that people, even if nobody remembers me, that they enjoy what is behind. Now, my kids, I do hope that my kids do a whole tour for their children. We did that down there. Mommy raised $15 million for that other one over here in Newark. Mommy did $21 million in Harlem. It's not there anymore, but we could put a little plaque there of this is where it was for the number of years that it was, for 8 years. That's what I hope. I just want my late husband, my late mother, and my living children to just be proud.
They already are, Taneshia.
And my grandparents who
already
pick cotton.
They already are. You are what our ancestors' wildest dreams was. Do you know that?
I believe that. But I'm also standing on their shoulders.
While also standing on their graves.
For sure.
And I think that memory, that essence, is probably a lot of the reasons why you keep going, even in the face of adversity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have indelible memories of using the outhouse at my grandparents. They did not have running water. Ooh. They had a well and an outhouse. Ooh. And so I'm like, that's why I keep saying I'm going to cry, because I'm just imagining my grandparents walking around, the places that I've gotten to live. And even my mom did get to see the house that we got rehabbed in Trenton, New Jersey. And I know she was proud. I know she was proud because I remember joking that my mother-in-law said that I should get a cleaning lady. And I said, my mom was the cleaning lady. I should be able to do this. And my mother was like, you can afford it, get a cleaning lady. I was like, okay, mommy.
Let somebody work for you.
Well, I think that's really what she meant, right? Right.
Let somebody work for you, because that's another thing I wanted to also name.
Right.
Because I was having a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and she was like, you say you got the money, so you're going to get an assistant, you're going to get this. And I said, well, yeah, that's the part of investing in yourself too. Sometimes we need the time for ourselves. And if you can afford to give a job or a duty away, to take that time for you, not to take on nothing else. Right. Do so. That's important.
It's still hard for me. And I know we're wrapping it up, but I'm going to tell you what thing that recently made me cry was that. Like, I was like, I'm not going to hire somebody. I'm just going to clean. And then I hired somebody to clean.
Good.
And she comes in. She comes every 2 weeks.
Good.
And she text messaged me recently, and she said, out of the blue, And she said, I just want to thank you for taking the chance on me. I'm like, to clean the house? And she said, it means a lot.
Trust.
And she's like, she has a little girl. And I was just like, I am going to cry. Because I wasn't expecting that. And I felt like it was a luxury for me. But for her, it was sustenance, right? And the fact that she took the time to send me a thank you note just kind of blew me away.
Again.
And,
yeah. Feeding the ecosystem, Tanesha.
Yeah. Yeah.
You helping this woman help her baby.
And I thought about, that's my mom.
That's you with your babies.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
I know. Oh, girl.
Ma'am, it's okay. The happy tears.
Yeah.
Okay, because you had me watering up a couple times. Okay?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I don't even want to look at this.
Okay,
I just want to look. Yep, I just want to look at you. Help, can we get some tissues, please?
Yes, I need tissue.
What's your sign?
Pisces, February 26th.
Okay, I know that's right. Okay, February is the
Pisces.
month. Did you hear that? I told you I love me a February Pisces, didn't I? I did. They gonna cut some of this. I could see his face. He's like, "Come on, child, what you doing over there?"
He wants to get a good one.
I said, "What you doing over there?"
You got okay.
Thank
good.
you. I don't need this much, but I love you. Girl, I'm like, please don't cry and mess up this eyeliner, child.
Yeah, I got
please.
the eyeliner too. But anyway.
No, not but anyway. You are incredible.
Thank you.
You are impactful.
Thank you.
And you are an inspiration.
Thank you.
I hope everybody watching this today, this is just a glimpse of who you are in tandem. You have so much more that I know you're going to accomplish. But even if you put this down today, Tanesha, please know your impact echoes for generations.
Thank you.
You are a legend.
Thank you for that.
I mean it. And the accolades are cool, but it's you as a person. I want you to know that. It's your heart. I feel your mama through you coming through. I feel your grandparents through you coming through. I feel your husband coming through you. And I know we having a hard time celebrating ourselves.
Yes.
But I really want you to take that time to celebrate yourself because you have so much more work to do.
I do. And I need to be here for my kids.
And I need you to be here. And I think the celebration is part of why you're going to be here even longer. I would love to see 96 on you. Okay, with the grays? Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
No,
yes.
don't think about it. Don't think about it. With that being said, I just want to thank you for your time, for your energy, for your essence, because you just changed the energy. Did you feel everything shift in here? You changed the energy in the space. It's people like you why we continue to do what we do and highlighting stories such as yours, because it's really a journey. And I know a lot of it has not been pretty. I didn't want to talk about the negativity that you may have faced or even the adversity, even though you talked about it a little bit with that toxic conglomerate that shall remain nameless. You don't show any of the things that you have been through. And I think there's something to be said about that too. And that's why I think you need to celebrate yourself, because this work is not easy, it's exhaustive.
It's really hard. But I'm going to throw it back to you. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about things that I don't typically talk about, right? And so thank you.
No, thank you, and you're welcome. If there was one last piece that you wanted to give to our audience today, whether it be advice, motivational phrase, an affirmation, what is next to come for you?
Well, advice, one of the things that when I had that moment of clarity in the past few years about being in my purpose is to not operate out of fear. I think so many people, either stop themselves or they just coming from a place of fear. Fear serves no purpose here, right? And so that's what I would say. Do not function out of a place of fear. Put yourself first. That's what I'm working on.
I'm gonna keep you accountable,
Just because
ma'am.
I don't always, I can still give that advice. Don't be like me. But also the authenticity. I think when you're more authentic and not doing what you think people want, you're going to be more satisfied with the outcome. And that's it. And maintain connections with people. I see people use people as levers instead of being authentically connected to people. And unfortunately, that tends to happen, especially arts, entertainment, politics.
Absolutely.
You know, I think the final thing I will say is, and I think it was Maya Angelou who said, when people show you
Who they are,
believe them. And I would add to that, and act accordingly.
Taneshia, thank you for everything that you do and you will continue to do. This was an amazing interview for me, so thank you. You just gave me so much life because I was tired before I came up in here, and just seeing your smile, hearing your journey, you really fired up me. So I know the viewers at home are gonna feel this too and be inspired to take on the world, but also act accordingly and be authentic in connections, and also maintain the authenticity of those connections. Thank you so much for joining us. You all, we want to welcome Taneshia Nash Laird to the show. And I don't even have the words to even end the show, child. So just cut it right there, okay? Okay, I love y'all. Bye.